This planer costs $600, but this planer costs $1,600. What's the difference? They look the same on the outside because they are. It's on the inside is where you're gonna see the major difference, but is it worth $1,000? Let's find out. In this video, we're gonna test out the differences in these two. We're gonna see which one planes better, smoother, and faster. Should be about the same speed, but we should get better results from the Shelix. We're also gonna test the sound difference because a lot of people will say these are much quieter. We'll figure out exactly how much quieter they are. And if you've ever nicked one of these straight blades, you know how long it takes to swap those around, or if you're just changing blades, we're gonna figure out how fast it'll take on each one to swap one blade around. And then finally, we'll decide whether it's worth the extra money to upgrade to that Byrd Shelix for most people. Let's go. I've had this planer for over 5 years and it has been an absolute workhorse in the shop, and I've planed a ton of boards with this planer over the years. It's been rock solid. This is one of the best woodworking planers or benchtop planers you can purchase as a garage or small shop woodworker. It will be the workhorse and will last you for years. It is a proven planer. So what makes this one $1,000 more expensive? Well, it is the absolute awesome Byrd Shelix helical cutter head. And you've seen this in a previous video of mine on the Oliver planer that also had the Byrd Shelix cutter head in there. Well, I did a comparison of this planer versus the Oliver. Well, now it's time to find out what apples to apples really looks like. Because on the Oliver, as I pointed out, it's kind of has a cheaply made shell, where this has an absolute robust shell. And how I got this one is quite an interesting story we'll cover later. First and foremost, when you unbox this planer, you're gonna get exactly what you would get if you went to a big box store or ordered on Amazon and bought the regular 735. It comes well packaged and it looks just like it would anywhere else. It is really heavy at about 92 pounds, so you may need some help getting this thing out of the box and set up properly. One thing you should know before we get too far into this, if you already have a 735, you can actually order the aftermarket or the add-on Byrd Shelix head to put into your existing planer, and it'll take you about 2 hours roughly based on what I've read or heard from Byrd themselves. So if you want to DIY install this, you can absolutely do that and save quite a bit of money. But most people like the plug and play of already having it installed. Everything's basically tuned up, ready to go out of the box. I like that myself. When you get this out of the box, you're gonna wanna look inside, because I did. So it's pretty easy to take this top off. It takes 4 bolts to take it off, and then you have the dust cover that comes right off with 3 of those long red screws, and then you're able to reveal what's inside, and it is the Byrd Shelix head. One thing to note is you cannot power this on with the switch with this top off unless you press the safety switch, which you should not do. But if you're like me, I wanted to see what all the fuss is about, so I opened it up and looked inside, and it's pretty cool. Now, if you buy this add-on, you'll get 5 extra teeth for your Byrd Shelix, as well as a screwdriver and bit to change those blades around if you need it. And if you like stickers, you'll also get a couple of stickers. Functionally, both of these perform exactly the same. The way you raise and lower the bed, etc. Now, the only thing you have to think about is if you buy the DW735X, which means it comes with 2 beds and it comes with an extra set of blades, then that's the package you'll get. So if you order from Amazon a 735X, you'll get those extras. If you order from Byrd, you're not getting these tables unless you add them on separately. And I asked them specifically why they weren't included at this price, and they said most people don't want the beds. So if you don't want the beds, you have nothing to worry about. But if you do, throw those in as an extra add-on. I personally like having the beds. If you purchase this without the beds are super easy to install. It takes 4 bolts per side, and the top one is spring-loaded so that you can take these beds on and off easily. These are very easy to install, takes minimal effort, takes about 2-3 minutes to get them both on. One interesting thing is, even though it has the Byrd Shelix helical head installed, they left the sticker on there that has the old blade thing on there. I kind of think they would remove that, but there are a few reasons why you would want a Shelix helical cutter head. Number one, cut quality. You're going to get a really smooth cut quality. We'll test these both out in just a minute, but it'll give you a nice, almost a 220 grit sanded feel to the finish. Another reason is if you're planting figured wood, like curly maple, for example, you won't have any tear out because the way the cutter knives on the Shelix head comes in contact with the wood, it's literally cutting the wood. Versus a straight knife like this is basically chopping the wood. Another advantage of the Shelix cutter head that I've noticed from the Oliver is the fact that it doesn't stop up the dust collection. On this old straight knife one, when I was planing ambrosia maple, it kept getting stopped up in the dust collection because it was cutting long pieces off. As you see in this video here, it just kept stopping up. And then it would just blow out the bottom of this planer and cause a giant mess. That doesn't happen with the Shelix head because of the way it's cutting the wood. You see here, it's much finer pieces. You're also going to get a big time savings if you ever have to change these blades around. On the straight knife version, you have to take off 8 bolts so that you can take off the top piece and then rotate that blade or change that blade if you've ever got it nicked with a nail, a staple, or even sometimes knots will cause these blades to get nicked, and then that puts lines in your plane board. And then you have to sand that off. It's just more work. It takes almost 5 minutes to swap these around. But if you have the Byrd Shelix cutter head, it only takes about 30 seconds to rotate that blade and get it locked back in, then you're back in business. That is a huge time savings and a lot less money overall if you nick these blades very often or have to change them out more often. These you can just swap around pretty quick. You're getting 4 edges per blade on the Byrd Shelix, and there's tons of these on there. I'm too lazy to count them all, but you can see there's a bunch. And they do include 5 spare blades in case they get damaged in some way. Now I have a few pieces of boards here we're going to plane and see if we can find any difference. I got this piece of walnut. It's got a little bit of a rough finish to it. I want to throw it through the Byrd Shelix first and see if it can get a nice smooth finish with a pass or two. We also have some maple here, which is notorious for tear out a lot of times on planers. I want to see how they perform in each, and then just some regular spruce pine board that you may get from your local home store just to see how well it planes on either one. Now a lot of times when you plane with the straight knives, what you'll get is a little bit of lines in your board where those knives are chopping it at. You can see that where this one was previously planed, it has those lines. I want to see if that can be taken away with the Byrd Shelix. And then finally we'll see what the sound level is between the two, planing each one, see if there's that major of a difference. I don't think there's going to be enough that you still won't need hearing protection, but we'll try it out. One of the things I absolutely love about the DeWALT DW735 is this removal scale that you'll see. It gives you an idea of about how much you're going to take off each pass. No other planer, a benchtop planer that I've used has that feature, and this is a very good accurate scale. You can also increase or decrease the amount of cuts per inch that you're getting so you get a fine or a more rough finish. I like that on this planer. Now I want to point something out that I was pretty impressed with straight out of the gate is this is butter smooth. Like this is a sanded finish, quality finish. You can see that the board is a little bit uneven where I've got a little bit of rough left here and here, as well as when it was going through I could tell that it was not flat. I would need to joint this board if I wanted to do it properly, but just to get an overall idea, I like this finish. Now let's run it through the other planer and see if we get a similar finish with the rest of this roughness. Wow, did you hear the difference? It was, I can't wait to put the meter on that. That's going to be majorly different. Interesting, the old planer with the straight knives tore out the walnut, a big gouge right there, peeled that right out. The other one didn't do it, and I can feel the difference. You can feel the difference where the planer went, the straight knife planer versus the Shelix helical head. And you can see their straight knife mark there. Kind of interesting. And the sound difference, woo. All right, one more pass through the straight knife planer. I can still feel a little bit of difference, but it's not like massively different, but you can feel a little bit of the difference between that cutter head and this cutter head. That one's a much more fine finish. Both of them set at number 1. Downloaded this little app called Decibel X or something like that. It's supposed to pick up the decibel level in here. You can see as I'm talking, it also jumps up and down. So we're going to test this out with the planer while I have my hearing protection on. Before we start the sound test, it should be noted, I'm going to try to remove about a 30-second of material on each one, on each species, so we get a very similar result as far as how much work it's having to do on each one. When planing the walnut with the straight knives, we got up to 108 decibels. Let's see what we get up to on the Byrd Shelix. I actually think it was quieter when it wasn't planing. When it started planing, it dropped down to like 86 or so. It was about 88 before it started planing. It is significantly quieter versus the straight planer knives on walnut. The finish is smooth as a baby's bottom. Like it is super smooth. I like that. Running maple through, we went to 108 again. It held pretty steady at 108, but I did have to kind of lean over the planer to get to that dust hose, try to hold it in place. still at 108 pretty consistently. One thing I noticed planing the maple is I see those long streaks in there, and that's coming from those planer knives, and they would need to be either changed over or sharpened. You can also see some vertical lines here from those planer knives. We'll see when we plane it with the Byrd Shelix if it has the same effect or if it's better. Running maple through the Byrd Shelix helical head, the sound level only got up to 92. Contrast that with like, what, 108 or so on the other one. It is much, much quieter. As far as the streaking goes, it is gone. This is smooth as it can be. Just almost a perfect finish. I'm really happy with how that turned out. You hit that with 120 or 220 grit sandpaper, and you've got a nice quality finish on a board. It's just less work is involved when you're using this Byrd Shelix, from what I can tell. As far as sound level goes, we're at 108 decibels with the straight knife planer on spruce. When planing the pine board, I did notice that it had a little bit of tear out, especially around those knots and a little bit of the rougher areas. You can see it kind of frizzed up there where it tore that board out or tore the grain off. And it also has those long streaks on there with the straight knives. Interesting enough, the sound difference between the Shelix head and the straight knife without anything going through it is about 10 or so decibels. I'm not sure if it's because this one's 5 years old or if it's those straight knives are causing more airflow or air resistance or what's going on there, but it is noticeable. Finish quality on the pine with this Byrd Shelix, I noticed much less tear out. Where the straight knives tore it out, it smoothed that over a little bit. I could probably do one more pass and get it much smoother, which I will, but it is much less, and it has taken away a lot of the streaking that was left by the straight knives, although I think I need one more pass to get it all the way gone. Color me impressed. This thing performs flawlessly compared to the straight knife version. Understand that the Byrd Shelix cutter head is absolutely superior to the straight knife version. Is it worth the $1,000 upgrade? Well, it's not necessarily a $1,000 upgrade. If you do it yourself and just purchase the Shelix head for yourself and install it, it takes a couple of hours. You should be able to do it and get your machine up and running, and the fact that it's not just for the DW735. They make them for the 734 and multiple other brands and makes. I'll link to the description to their main site so you can check them out, see if they have one for your model. They probably do. You'll be up and running doing the same thing this thing is doing. The Byrd Shelix helical head are made here in the USA in Kentucky, and that they do carry a lifetime warranty, but they don't have a warranty on this machine. If you buy it from them, from what I can gather, it voids the warranty for the actual machine, motor, etc. But the actual helical head has a lifetime warranty. Personally, I think the plug and play option is best for me because I can just buy it and it's ready to go. I don't have to spend time trying to figure out how to put this in and get it dialed in right. They have technicians that are trained to put those in exactly like they're supposed to be. And I like the fact that I can just purchase it already pre-installed. The absolute advantages you're getting with this Byrd Shelix helical head is absolute noise reduction. Looking at 10, 15 decibels, sometimes a little more depending on what you're cutting or what you're planing, but it was noticeable. Now, with that said, even with either of these machines not planing, you're still looking at the high 80s or 90s. I recommend hearing protection. I like these 3M earmuffs. They're Bluetooth so you can listen to music, but they also work without any music going. These are great. You buy your own, whatever you like, but you do need some hearing protection no matter which one, but there is a significant sound difference in this one, quieter, versus this one, which is louder. The cut quality is absolutely better on this machine with the Shelix head versus the straight knife. This one had no tear out, never, and everything was really smooth, left minimal lines, if any at all, and it was just really smooth. You take a 120 grit sanding disc, sand that over, you're good to go. This one left streaks. It tore out in several different species, pine, walnut, and then if you did have any figured wood like curly maple, etc., it'd be even worse. You see a lot of tear out on those type woods, especially with these straight knife versions. The time to change the blades is also another issue for some people. Swapping these around, just one blade took 5 minutes. If I was going to have to do all three, you're looking at least 15 minutes-ish, give or take. With this one, you don't really have to change those blades out if one gets nicked. Not all of them, you just replace one or just actually twist it around. It takes about 30 seconds, much, much faster on the Shelix head. Dust collection is another thing. This doesn't get stopped up. The Shelix heads don't, like the straight knives versions do, like I talked about before. So with all those things wrapped up in mind, I think that the value is here if you plane enough. Now, if you're not planing a whole bunch, then they're probably not gonna make a huge difference to you. But if you're running a lot of wood in through your shop and you're planing a bunch of wood, You will absolutely love this Shelix helical head for the time savings in finish, so you don't have to sand as much, and you're not wasting wood that's tearing out and you're having to fix that later. It's just a much better value for somebody that's planing a bunch of wood. Now, the average weekend woodworker who planes once a month or once every other month, I don't recommend this upgrade. Now, if you like having the best for a garage shop, low production, the DeWALT DW735 is the best of the best. It's one of the best machines I've ever owned. Adding that Shelix helical head makes it a game changer, next level tool that I'm absolutely proud to have in the shop. I don't think I tightened one of those bolts down tight enough. I just found it laying on the bed. It's been chopped. Probably missing one off those blades. And this was an absolute amazing gift from my good friend right there, All Red Woodworks, who actually 2 years ago, almost to the day, gifted me the Wahuda jointer as well. That's how we became friends. We've been on vacation together now, talk almost every day. Just an awesome dude. Thank you, Brother Ria. Wait, if you like this video, you may like the Oliver planer. It has the Shelix helical head. It's a little less expensive, still an awesome machine, not quite as robust. You got to check that video out right there. Click in the box, get to the big old virtual fist bump.